So the what's being observed, whatever that fucking means, there's videos from overseas from the Yanks, right? Okay, who are watching as what's passing for government efficiency is just straight up destruction, among other things, and there have been commentators on YouTube who said things like, well, Hitler did it in 53 days, Trump has done it in 73. And so let's have a little bit of been asked to have a bit of a rant about sort of a misunderstanding that happens. Yeah, there's this saying, there's this quote that people bring around. So, first they came for the socialists, but I did nothing because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came from the trade unionists, but I did nothing because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came from the gypsies, but I did nothing because I was not a gypsy. Then they came from the disabled, but I did nothing because I was not disabled. And then they came for a Jew, but I did nothing because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and I couldn't do anything because there was no one to help me. It all been taken. Okay, so that's a comment someone made about like it's a quote that's been going around for years about the importance of giving a shit about groups that you don't belong to, in case a sort of fascist warlord Nazi arsehole comes along. Okay, by the way, fascist and Nazi isn't the same. Nazism is an extra layer that got put on top of fascism in Hitler's regime. Okay, however, fascism's nasty on its own. And would have the consequence of does have the consequence of discriminatory practices as well, due to its overemphasis on hierarchy and the arbitrariness of what hierarchy is and is not. So, in some societies, at the top of the hierarchy will be white, someone will be black. They both could be fascist societies. That's not the point. So that with the point when you see that, listen to that again. Wait, hang on. A fascist society isn't necessarily a white guy with a super hierarchy. It could also be a black guy. Okay, so a curious discussion about African warlords if you want. African fascist dictators. They've had a couple. Okay, and discussion about whether or not you think people from Chile are white people or not, and so on and so forth. You can, what about Pol Pot? Oh wait, Pol Pot wasn't even a fascist. Allegedly, he was a communist. Okay, so it just goes on like that. About the debate, and so the people being opposed to fascism, is more likely to be the case because they're more likely to be opposed to anything that takes away their pension. Okay? Shit, you pay tax money, and in return, you can go to the hospital anytime you like. Up until you reach adulthood, you might have a free education. Or usually you do. And if you're sick or you're aged, you can get a pension. That's nice. All those things came into effect in the 1960s and 1970s. Before that, there was no such thing as war widows' pensions. There was no such thing as single parent payments. There was no such thing as disability allowance or sickness allowance, or actually pensions didn't exist. They were pushing for them. And in the 1980s, as to try and prevent as many people as possible from getting their age pension, they invented superannuation out of the previous mutual society, take your penny from the pot guild system that had predated all the unions and the secularization movement and everything else. Okay, so what's the difference between fascism, okay, and totalitarian socialism? Okay, because there is a difference between fascism and ANCAP. It's the same way that there's a difference between socialism and authoritarian socialism. Okay, Okay, you're talking about authoritarian and totalitarian structures. If you look at the Chinese Communist Party, they're not communist at the moment. In practice, they're probably more of a centrist or a centre-right, close to the centre line. Hyper totalitarian authoritarian party. So they are totalitarian authoritarian centrist. Okay, they're a centrist. Their government is bang on the centre, more or less, very close to the centre, between socialism and fascism, and they are right up the top on that standard quadrant diagram that they use, right up the top when it comes to totalitarian and authoritarianism. Okay, so they're very hierarchical and strict, bossy, very hierarchical and strict, bossy place. But you'll get a pension. Also, you'll also have capitalist oligarchies. Okay, so in other words, they and you get to vote for them, but it's because it's totalitarian and authoritarian. It's still a single party state, so you only have to get to vote for them. Okay, so China's an example of the exact center at the exact totalitarian authoritarian level. Okay, right? Okay, and so one of the things that's coming out is they're trying to say in China that is that you've been pwned type of thing. They're trying to say that the Chinese population's reduced to 300 million from 1.4 billion. Okay, but there's people who are saying, yeah, they actually live in Beijing. No, Beijing's not empty. It's about the same population it was before. Also, there's people in major urban centres in and other places saying, yeah, no, since COVID, there's been an increase in the Chinese population. Yeah. Now, it wouldn't be because, perhaps their lives were at risk, and if they were being trapped there, they could have been, part of some kind of extermination campaign that the CCP now wants you to think actually succeeded. Well, that's paranoia. But they are a totalitarian, authoritarian regime. They must want to kill most of their population if it doesn't suit their fucking interests. Would a government kill its own people en fucking masse if it suited their own interests? Would a government kill its own people en fucking masse if it suited its interests? Oh, that's a fucking question in the 21st century. Yes, that's happened fucking heaps of times before. That's never happened before. Pol Pot. Seriously, bullshit. That's never happened. Hitler never existed. Not the Pol Pot. Bullshit. Okay, so people in terms of their major constructs use that language. Okay, when they're hearing about China, maybe having a massive reduction in population, thinking bullshit. We don't necessarily blame them for running away though. Bullshit. Our subway just got replaced by 500,000 Chinese people. Yeah, they're dead, all right. Yeah, they going ni hao doji and fucking. Would you like some chow mein? Like they're not. Sorry, not trying to be racist, but they're kind of making it obvious that the Chinese are saying, yeah. But we'd rather you do that than be dead, okay? Right, just quietly, but fair enough. Wow. Okay. So the bullshit. Bullshit, it's a massively authoritarian, totalitarian regime has never tried to kill its own people before. Well, what do you think that is? It's fucking Jonestown, but with a formal army and court system. There's fuck all difference between the lot. I mean, they were at least in the 21st century with the Yanks. They got the guts to say that they think this MAGA shit's some kind of cult, right? That's the language they're going with. Okay, that's how they're portraying the situation. They're going, MAGA's a cult, and there were people in 2016 who thought Donald Trump was the Messiah. It's like, did the Scientologists put a spell on them? Because the Scientologists said Jesus Christ was a pervert. And Donald Trump's on the Epstein files. Yeah, exactly. Okay. he's a bit sus, okay? I've actually, this physical body has actually observed a video, and we know we do live in the AI deep fake fucking reality as well, but just quietly, okay, it is a little bit disturbing to see a man in his, how old was he? His early 70s, so it was about 10 years ago or something like that, instantly going down the escalator in a scene not too dissimilar from The Simpsons, okay, without Homer and all the rest. And he goes down, and there's a person walking past with their little girl, okay, in the video, and Donald Trump goes, "Oh, hello, 10 years from now, going to be banging you." Oh, 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 oh. Is MAGA some kind of proto fake shaman, plastic shaman, some kind of, no offense to the Ainu word shaman, like weird magic spell thing, maybe, where the Scientologists, where L. Ron Hubbard used to say Jesus Christ was a pervert, to attack all the Christians, because if you look at their operating Thetan levels in that cult, they're basically saying is, once you deal with your crap, you have to deal with excessively increased number of crap from others, who we'll call the dead alien souls, okay, and they're just, you know, the tree of death, right? Okay, so just another word for the tree of death. Okay, they just couched in different language. Once you dealt with your crap, you'll cease to exist, and then you have to deal with a bunch of crap from the tree of death. We'll call them the dead alien souls. Okay, and once you've cleared all of them, you get to OT9, where you get to deal with the implant, where everyone's sitting in front of TV, being programmed to have religion, which just so happens to resemble quite strangely the advertising video that they have in the Church of Scientology facilities. So in Scientology, they have a video they used to back in the day, have like their palatial, bizarre looking so-called churches, which were bookshops, right? With fuck all books in it, and these underfed looking crazy people, you know, acting as concierges, and then and if someone went in there, they might go, how come those two words are in the same sentence, and how come that word doesn't sound right? You know, Scientology doesn't sound like science, you know. How come it looks like this is weird? Oh, you got a video? Oh, whatever. This looks stupid. And I go and watch the video and go, and they see Kirstie Alley and John Travolta, right? And they go, Scientology has never committed tax fraud. Scientology has never cheated the IRS of its taxes, okay? Right? Okay? And it goes on like that and stuff like, L. Ron Hubbard was a good man, and there was nothing wrong happened on the Four-Wind ship, and Scientology has never cheated on its taxes. The IRS was engaging in a witch hunt. And the people watching just go, and none of that describes Scientology. There's no, this is Scientology, and this is what that Scientology is about in the interactive video that they show in their cult centers and their bookshops. Okay, it's, we don't get it. Like, and the audience laughs their heads off, walks out and says, and typically says to the concierge, "You're in a cult, can you please get out?" Like, you're not, you know, you're wasting your time. Like, you look like you're emaciated. Get out of their fucking cult. You know, yeah, okay, and then walks out and leaves, right? Now, this OT9 implant, okay, what they describe when you, like, they finally, over the course of time, because Scientology got leaked by South Park, among other things. So they now have Wikipedia pages which have the basic ideas there. And apparently there's a thing called OT9. And on OT9 you deal with some kind of implant where you're sitting in front of the TV being programmed with the world religions, and it's like, well, because it's Xena or something. And it's like, that's your introductory video. That's your introductory video at the fucking Scientology office. Their religion does not cheat tax, and to go after them would be equivalent of going on a witch hunt. They're not, they're not nice people, these Scientologists, okay? They've tried to say that an entire group of people, based on absolutely no facts and evidence at all, are perverts, namely the Christians, okay? Because the spirit of Christ is within. Okay, look, follow the logic that the Scientologists were going with, or L. Ron Hubbard was going with, okay? In common parlance in Christianity, the spirit of Christ is within all of us, right? That's what they say, okay? Oh, okay. L. Ron Hubbard says Jesus Christ was a PEDO, right? Okay. So he's basically saying the spirit of PEDO is in everyone. What kind of sick fuck was L. Ron Hubbard? Was he trying to say that ahead of his time, perhaps, that those 4,444 people who came forward in the Australian Royal Commission about the Vatican covering up crimes against them, that they were perpetrators? Because at the time of the offending, they were under the care of Catholic institutions, and many of them were in fact Catholics at the time. Whether or not they stayed that way is another story. They might have gone really put off and decided to go turn to atheists or whatever. Whatever they've decided to do. So, no, that sounds like victim blaming, actually. It's like saying that Jews are responsible for what Hitler did. No, fuck you. And on the subject, we need to talk about Chile. Okay, so we've had a segue into Scientology, and we go back to the starting topic. Chile. The CIA overthrew a socialist leader, whether or not they were going to become a dictator or not, in favour of Pinochet. And Pinochet turned out to be a wonderful thing for Chile, especially all the people who got murdered and raped, and those that are still drying their eyes over the subject and trying to repair the damage done to their society. Okay, so the CIA obviously was doing favours for Chile and wasn't motivated by whatever interest they had at the time, including but not limited to any corporate lobby groups that might have been directing their fucking programs. I mean, we don't know. It's not like these conversations have never come up before in political circles of people discussing nefarious and sundry imaginary constructs, such as CIA. Obviously, that the CIA is an imaginary construct. I mean, there are people that work there, or at least there were. I mean, actually, on that subject, is Doji destroying the CIA as a government department? I mean, it's not exactly efficient, is it? I mean, I wouldn't exactly call it government efficiency to have a government department called the CIA that actually goes into foreign countries like Chile and overthrows their duly elected leaders, whether or not they were going to be good ones or not, and deliberately has installed a fascist dictator to create a massive refugee crisis in Chile, which results in a lot of South Americans from Chile being migrants to the USA in the first place. Not sure people like the Argentinians or the Brazilians or any other countries, that. And on that subject, it's a bit confusing to that sort of there was some confusion there a while back about Pope Francis must be against Pinochet because he was an Argentine. He's an Argentine. Here's the thing. So actually, no, Pinochet was Chile, wasn't it? They reckon, yeah. It wasn't Argentina. It was Chile. Yeah, it's an example of the so-called glitch in the Matrix Mandela effect, because pretty sure for the last 60 years or so since Pinochet did that, people say it was Argentina. Pretty sure people from Argentina came to other countries and said, their parents and grandparents migrated because of Pinochet. But they weren't Chilean. So this is the story, it's like, whatever. Do these dictators ever existed, or are they just stories that get transferred from one point of a map to another, and have some kind of dress code change? Just say, see, danger's happening everywhere, danger's happening all the time. Okay, look, it's happening everywhere all the time. Look, there's all these dictators and stuff like that. And before we know, Donald Trump's actually died of old age. If you're being realistic about it, I mean, moment that camera paused, okay, maybe the cameraman paused the camera and put it down and started beating the snot out of that prick because he thought it was dirty. The parent of that girl, okay, in the story earlier, freaking did the same thing and said, hey, you go to your mum and cover your eyes. You talk about my fucking daughter like that again, you fucking cunt. You're going to cop it real fucking sweet. You don't fucking go up to some stranger's freaking 8, 9-year-old kid and say, 10 years from now, you're going to bang him. Okay? You don't think about banging when kids are in front of you, full stop, okay? If you do, it might be with your missus or something like that, and then you feel very, very awkward. But you certainly don't fucking put that shit on them. They don't have to know about it. You don't talk to them about it. It's not their bloody business. And so it's like this, how many people just want to fucking smack him? And so it's a common reaction and stuff like that. People know that that's going to provoke that emotional reaction, that's going to manipulate them emotionally, because it is in fact a common sentiment that the people don't like that. They actually don't like that. And they don't like dictators, and they don't like these horrible, nasty dreams that we've all been imprinted with of dictators, socialist or fascist. And of course, the answer has always been the neoliberal wet dream of centrist capitalism and post-Keynesian economics. And it's like, well, whatever, okay? They're all just theories, not facts. I mean, if you have a look at game theory, for example, it's obviously a lot of hogwash, and here's why. Game theory basically says that each player in a group will try to maximize their results. And sometimes they will cooperate and act as a cartel if it suits them to maximize their results. So, in other words, they're looking for operant conditioning. They're looking for more rewards and less punishments. They want to get more out of it than they want to put into it. Simple as that. You go, okay, that sounds pretty fucking straightforward. It also sounds like capitalism. Okay, capitalism is an example of when they do that, and they do that at the expense of other people who are not able to maximize their benefits and, indeed, perhaps pay maximal costs. So, as a collective, okay, right? So you get the stuff like class demographics and whatever else comes into it then. And so if you go, that sounds fair enough, okay? Except there are far too many situations where people are not maximizing their benefits. They're actually trained to only seek punishment. They're trained to seek punishment and not reward. And they're trained to seek punishment because they're trained to value productivity. They're trained to value work. They're trained to doom scroll. They're trained to actually to be people that actively punish people who don't support the regime of it. So you don't doom scroll, then somebody will come along and harass you and put you down, or come up with some excuse to harangue you for some reason. Okay, like some bossy britches who thinks he's worth a pinch of fucking shit, but actually he's just a narcissist who's driven everyone fucking mad, and they're all paying the consequences, and then he turns around and says they're crazy, like a domestic violence offender. Okay, yeah, that kind of character is a Hitler or a Mussolini, or he's a fucking Pinochet, or he's a Donald fucking Trump. Even if he was someone who thought he was opposed to stuff like that, through his actions he shows us what he is. Okay? And so that's that, but that particular imprinting is the imprinting of leadership. Okay, so leadership and being a boss and being a man, okay, and being a Christ and being a savior and things like that is imprinted with this idea of being a narcissistic bully that literally demonizes others and thinks he knows their stories better than they know their own, makes up shit up, okay, and actively supports those that are offending against them. Because it suits their interests, okay? So that a leader engages in game theory and prevents others from being able to be players in the game theory. And that puts them constantly on the back foot or the defense. So a leader is there to make sure that those that don't follow them suffer the consequence. Pax Romana. Okay? So the Pax Romana means that you're not a player. Okay? Even if you're controlling every chessboard and every piece on every chessboard, and you are literally writing the entire history of the world due to the weird spiritual mathematics of the situation, okay? You're not a player, Pax Romana, okay? You're just a stupid crazy bitch. Aren't you, Fugly? Or is that a delusion of grandeur like what a dictator would have? We don't actually know. Right? So if you put it like that, okay, if you put it like that, the Buddha's void state is for people who are suckers for fucking punishment. Okay? And we know they're suckers for punishment because they went out of the way as part of the history to prevent the punishing aspects of a disease they didn't want to have. So obviously, when they successfully treated that illness and ascended as a consequence, they obviously didn't want to exist inside their vehicle anymore and wanted to go into a void state where they'd be punished by fucking everyone else giving them shit. I mean, that's obviously the case, isn't it? It is. It's obviously the case. So let's have a look at that. So Chile is a void state, and United States of America is a void state, and what's the name? England's a void state, China's a void state, Russia's a void state. There's no such thing as a Chinese person. They're all dead, apparently. Same with the Russians and the Yanks and the Poms and everyone in NATO countries. The only people that'd be left would be black Africans, but not South Africans. A lot of it the Kenyans, because the origin of humanity was the Rift Valley. So if you're in the Rift Valley and you're from the original tribal peoples of the Rift Valley, which you're probably not, you're probably from one of the Bantu groups that invaded approximately 1,200 years ago and murdered the original peoples there. In which case, you're a hypocrite. So any Kenyans out there making videos talking about how the outsiders in South Africa should have left, which, by the way, they should have for a different reason. But was they think they know better because they're from Kenya? I'd ask you a question. Okay, your ancestors arrived in Kenya from the Bantu tribes up north less than fucking 1,500 years ago. You are actually not the original peoples of Kenya. Okay? Same with the Nigerians and the Namibians. Sorry, you're not. You're the descendants of the murderers. So you talk all big you like about how the white fellas invaded you fucking 300 or 400 years ago, but you were only there for 400 years before that. So stop talking shit, you hypocrites. You got back what you fucking gave. They really did. Those people got back what they gave. They freaking the Bantu people invaded those countries less than 1,200 years ago, murdered the original fucking peoples there, and enslaved the fucking rest. And then fucking had the heart to fucking complain when Tidy Whitey came along and started killing them. And started enslaving them. They just got back what they fucking gave. True story. No, really, it's a true story that actually happened. Okay? Not so much the Zulu and the Khoisan people, not so much the Milanese people of West Africa or whatever. Okay, because they've got different stories. But the Bantu people, on the other hand, they've got a lot to answer for. Are they going to do it? Or is it only the white people that are responsibility? Maybe Kenyans should stay out of South Africans' fucking business, because they're hypocrites. Have a nice revolution, USA!